Today I'm in my Slav outfit. Slavs representing. A bit overdue, but I'm finally checking out AMD's new X570 platform and Ryzen 3000 series CPU. Hi guys, Matthew here and welcome back again to my channel. It seems like motherboard manufacturers have found a new niche for their products, a new buzzword so to speak. Although it was out there to begin with, it just wasn't specifically targeted. That being the general content creation segment, which is why ASRock named this model the X570 Creator. That was pretty straightforward. Since this is basically a new sub-brand and series for ASRock, they had to find a completely different and unique design language for this model, so it can have its own thing, so to speak, just like their Tai Chi and Phantom Gaming series. I can personally say that I like it. I mean, it isn't jumping out of the box and yelling, "Hey, look at me!" with this grey, silver and black color scheme, which is to be expected since they're aiming towards content creators with this model, so it doesn't have to be in your face like that. We do have a little bit of a blue hint around the PCB, which gives it that extra something, but it's still fairly neutral, so you can mix and match it with a lot of other components. If you take an even closer look at this model, you will notice that it resembles a lot to their special edition limited run motherboard in terms of the components and features on it, that being the Aqua model, which is their X570 chipset based motherboard that comes with a pre-installed water block for the CPU, power design and chipset, and actually you could say that it is it. One thing that pops right out is the fact that it has a DisplayPort input on the motherboard itself, which is used for passing through the video signal from the graphics card to the Thunderbolt interface, and that's right away comparable with the Aqua model. What it seems is that they've used the same design and feature set as with the Creator model, or vice versa, put it on a different looking PCB together with that water block and rearranged the components a bit. For example, the Nishikon audio caps are here put in one line instead of being grouped like this. I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, on the contrary, this is a good thing because what ASRock did here is gave us two very specific options based on buyer's use case scenario, and both models have their own backstories and corresponding prices. What's also that giveaway when it comes to similarities is the back I/O port layout, where we unfortunately don't have a fixed plate cover, which is a bit odd considering the price tag of this model. Here you will get 6 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports, HDMI out and DisplayPort in, 2 LAN ports, 1 gigabit Intels and 1 10 gigabit from the Aquantia AQC107 chipset, 2 RP-SMA antenna ports for the 802.11ax Wi-Fi module, or as it's called today, Wi-Fi 6, combo PS2 port and an array of audio ports. Most importantly, we have 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2 Thunderbolt 3 Type-C ports, which is a major feature to have, and what's funny about that is that it's not pointed out anywhere on the box, and I assume that it's related to write since Thunderbolt is Intel's technology. Unfortunately, I don't have any Thunderbolt 3 devices with me to test its 40 gigabit bandwidth, like a fast external SSD or an external eGPU, but I have no doubts that this thing can walk the walk. The motherboard is mostly dominated by these 4 heatsink parts. There are 2 on the bottom for the M.2 slots and chipset's heatsink, which by the way carries a small 37mm fan, more on its performance later on, while on the top we have a 2-part passive heatsink connected via a single heat pipe, which cools off the 12+2 phase power design. 12 phases are for CPU V-Core, MOSFETs are the DRMOS Infineon IR3555 and its driver is the Infineon IR3599, while the PWM controller is also Infineon IR35201. All of this handled my Ryzen 7 3700X without any problem whatsoever. I've managed to keep it stable at 4.25 GHz across all cores, with no problems in terms of the VRM temperatures, but that's not unexpected since this CPU has a pretty mild TDP figure. A total of 128 GB of DDR4 RAM can be put in the DIMM slots right next to the CPU socket, while their speed support for different overclocking frequencies will depend on the CPU family. Coming down to the bottom half of the motherboard, similar to the Z390 Phantom Gaming 7 model, which I've recently reviewed, you'll have to pull off the chipset heatsink in order to get to the M.2 slot, but this time the guilty party in question is the bottom M.2 slot, while the top slot has its own thing going on. What's also the same is the PCI Express slot layout, where we have 3 full physical length PCI Express 4.0 x 16 slots, additionally beefed up with steel brackets, while in between them we have a total of also 3 PCI Express 2.0 x 1 slots. Of course, SLI and Crossfire multi-GPU configurations are supported, but have in mind that bandwidth and support varies depending on which Ryzen series CPU you put on it, as well as what other devices are connected to the motherboard. Just below that, and following it through around the motherboard edge, you'll see your usual array of connectors and headers. On the bottom we have USB 2.0 and weirdly USB 3.0 header, a couple of fan, audio and other headers, one 12V and one 5V addressable RGB LED header, LED debug screen right next to the dedicated power on, reset switch, and a small clear CMOS button. On the right there's a total of 8 SATA 3 ports, one fan header, USB 3.2 Gen 2 header for the chassis front panel connections, another USB 3.0 header, 24-pin ATX power connector, while at the top in the right corner you'll find 2 fan headers, right next to it another 12V RGB LED header, or as they call it AMD RGB LED fan header, and to finish it off, in the left top corner we have 2 EPS power connectors in an 8+4 configuration and another fan header, so that's 5 in total. Lastly, ASRock equipped this model with Realtek's LC1220 sound codec, together with the Nishikon gold caps and NE5532 headphone amp, overall a pretty common higher-end onboard audio solution. The new motherboard design for this series was also transferred over onto the layout of the motherboard's UEFI BIOS, where you now have this new background skin which mimics the aesthetics of the motherboard, but essentially we have this same well-known UEFI BIOS on top of that. Altogether, I did notice that, for example, the RGB control is a little bit different compared to ones on their motherboard models based on Intel's platform. Plus, we are also missing out on the fantastic fan control feature, just your regular fan customization options, which is to say at least a bit odd to explain, as there's no real reason not to put it in here. Hopefully it will come with some of the future UEFI BIOS update. On the other hand, you will get all of your regular overclocking settings, everything you need to control the CPU, RAM and motherboard, basically your usual set of features for a high-end ASRock motherboard. I didn't have any problems loading my XMP profile for the HyperX Predator RAM. I hit 3000 MHz on the dot, didn't have to fiddle with the settings any further, everything was rock stable. My only real gripe towards this model is that little 37mm fan, which is out of the box so loud to the point that you would rather use your abacus for computing. Thankfully, it's not all bad news here, you can lower it down by manually creating a custom fan curve, and around 30 to 40% of fan speed the acoustic situation is much better, but I do wish they would tune it like that out of the box, hopefully with a future UEFI BIOS update. Here's a short sound clip of the noise under stock and manual fan profile, while also showing you the sound meter for a measurement comparison. All in all, the X570 Creator model is the real deal when it comes to bells and whistles, no doubt about it, but the thing is that it probably won't be that common choice on account of its pretty high price tag, except for those who can really take advantage of every single feature that it brings in on the table. Speaking of those features, on the other hand, it's also very similar to their high-end Phantom Gaming X model. It basically just misses out on the Thunderbolt capability, but that can also be solved with buying an add-in card, and in total it's around 30% cheaper than it. Bottom line, you do have options, you're not only bound to just one. That's it for this time from me. Thank you once again for watching. Toss me a thumbs up if you enjoyed my content. That really helps a lot. And if you like what you saw, feel free to subscribe. And if you already are, be sure to press that notification bell down below so you don't miss out on a new video. And until then, catch you later, guys.